Thank everybody for joining us today. I'm Sergeant Nick Wilshire of the Calgary Police Service of the Crime Prevention Team. And I'm pleased to be here today on behalf of the Calgary Police Service with several of our local and provincial partners to kick off Fraud Prevention Month here in Calgary. Fraud is something that impacts everyone in our community. Every year, Calgarians sadly fall victim to many different types of scams and frauds, from credit card fraud to identity theft and tax and investment scams. Last year, the CPS had more than 9,000 fraud-related calls for service. Many of these reports also included other crimes, such as theft or break and enter. We want to highlight that in about 5,000 of those reported incidents, fraud was the most serious crime that took place. We can see from the numbers that fraud is prevalent here in Calgary, but we also know that these crimes underestimate the true extent of fraud. We often hear of people taking on a lot of these losses themselves, not wanting to report the crime to the police or other services. A lot of that is that they feel embarrassed that they've been caught up in a scam, and also because they don't believe that anything can be done about these. We understand that falling victim to a scam can be embarrassing, but we encourage everybody to report these crimes to the police so that we can actually take more action. There is a lot more that we can do than you actually think. The more reports we have, the more we can educate the public about the new scams and how people can protect themselves. Reporting these incidents not only helps police track crime trends, but also helps us determine if we can investigate, if an investigation can be opened, and we can contact the victim and connect them with the right resources that they need. CPS is here to help everyone and anyone who has fallen victim to a fraud or scam. If you've been defrauded, please contact our non-emergency line and report this crime. And even if you haven't been defrauded, if you are approached with an opportunity that you think is suspicious or too good to be true, please visit one of our Calgary Police Service district offices and speak to one of our front counter staff who will be able to provide you with information. We also have information on our Calgary Police website as well. Fraud Prevention Month gives us an opportunity to talk to Calgarians about the tools available to help them recognize, report, and ultimately stop frauds before they or their loved ones are victimized. I want to thank all our partners for joining us today and doing their part in educating Calgarians regarding fraud. I'd now like to introduce Mary O'Sullivan Anderson, President and CAO of the Better Business Bureau, serving Southern Alberta and East Kootenay.
Thank you very much. Good morning, and thank you all for being here this morning. I would like to extend a thank you to Sergeant Nick Wilshire Service, along with every partner contributing to Fraud Prevention Month throughout Alberta. As part of our mission at BBB, Better Business Bureau, we are committed to empowering consumers and businesses in our community with knowledge, tools, and resources to protect themselves and their loved ones from modern fraud and scams. As of December 31st, 2023, the Canadian Anti-Fraud reported that over 62,000 reports were processed and over 41,000 victims, leading to losses over $500 million. This is not just a number, it represents people in our communities. Today, we unveil our 2023 Canadian Risk Report. The BBB Scam Risk Report Index is a unique formula that gauges the impact of scams to determine the risk. The report looks at evaluating exposure, so the volume of reports, susceptibility or the likelihood of losses, and the monetary losses, the overall median amounts of dollars lost. Nearly 1.7 million people visited BBB's Scam Tracker in 2023 across North America. And the susceptibility, again, that's the percentage of reports with monetary losses, increased across all groups. This is significant. The 2023 The Top 10 Index report includes investment and cryptocurrency scams at the top of the list, employment, home improvement, advance fee loans, online purchases, New on the top 10 is romance scams. In seventh place is phishing and social engineering, travel, vacation, and timeshare, credit card scams, and then also new is tech support in the number 10 spot. To read more about the 2023 Canadian Risk Report, we invite you to contact or look at bbb.org for more information. In closing, I want to emphasize the critical role that each of us plays in the fight against fraud. As we reflect on the insights shared today and the collective efforts of our community, let us remember that our strength lies in unity and commitment to vigilance. The battle against fraud is ongoing, but together we are creating a safer, more trustworthy marketplace for all. Let us carry forward the spirit of Fraud Prevention Month throughout the year, continuing to educate, inform, and protect our loved ones and every member of our community. Thank you again for everyone for being here today, to the Calgary Police Service and all of our partners for your dedication and your commitment. Together, we are making a difference in creating safer communities. Let us keep the momentum alive for a safer Alberta. Thank you.
What are you seeing as the most common frauds, and what are you noticing also in trends in recent years as well in terms of increases or whatever you're observing?
Okay. Yeah, we are seeing an increase overall in frauds. They're many and varied. We saw at the beginning of the year, romance scams seem to pick up. Now as we're entering March, it seems to be more of the CRA scams. So there's lots of different scams as they move throughout the year. A lot of them are usually the phone call that tells you that it's either some form of mistaken transaction, or Canada Post is holding a parcel for you, or you ordered an iPhone and it's not arrived. It's just, they try and play on urgency. We've seen a very slight drop at the moment in the number of calls where it's somebody purporting to be a relative that's been incarcerated, but we could see those pick up. We just noticed over the winter months that seemed to fall lower. It may increase during the summer months. So they cycle through a lot of the times, and we do see at different periods the different scams kind of feature more. If there's a new release of an iPhone, I can guarantee you we will see a lot of the iPhone scams coming up.
One thing, as you were touching on the Anti-Fraud Center, I mean, from the 2023 data, I think when you break it down nationally and also provincially, I think it was investments frauds were leading the way on that. I think crypto was something that they were trying to really highlight on this. Are you seeing this reflected as well? I mean, it typically, I mean, it seems like Alberta, once again, is mimicking what we're seeing nationally in terms of some of these frauds.
We are seeing that. We're seeing those things occur. The biggest issue I would say we face is that a lot of people aren't reporting it. I have officers going out giving presentations on fraud, and I can't think of one time they haven't come back and said, we had about 2 or 3 people who've fallen victim of fraud, but never reported it. So we really do want to encourage, the more people report the fraud, it does give us a lot more of an idea of what's happening and what methods are being used, and it does help us combat it.
Are you seeing a lot of cases where you're seeing the perpetrators or people allegedly doing this, they're local? Are you seeing the vast majority of this tends to be, it's international, it's much broader than this? And then I guess the second part of that question is when it gets multi-jurisdictional, doesn't it? Does that pose challenges as well?
It does pose challenges, but I can say that as we've worked with our partners, both in the province and also all the other provinces and federally, we've been able to work and build up a good working relationship where information and knowledge actually passes. So we're at the point where I feel as a nation that we have the infrastructure there to help and prevent these things from happening. And all the partner agencies are all engaged in that. It is just getting people to report it when they've been a victim, report it even if they've not fallen victim, they've suddenly gone, oh, hang on a minute, this is a scam. That's just as important, even if you've noticed it, to really report these crimes to us and let us know what is happening, because that helps us build up that bigger knowledge of what's happening. As for the offenders, all depends on the type of crime that's being committed. A lot of the online stuff that's international, that is going everywhere. Some of the frauds, certainly the ones that may relate to people coming to collect money for a relative that's been incarcerated, they tend to be local, but there are signs that they are probably connected to other organizations and other organized crime.
Speaking of organized crime, I guess, as you collaborate with the RCMP, other international agencies and so on, are you seeing anything in the way of trends, I guess, in terms of, like, I'm going to make an assumption here that we've seen organized crime in addition to individuals involved with this for years, but are you noticing any trends here nationally, provincially, internationally, in terms of organized crime and kind of the kinds of frauds that we're seeing? Are we seeing increases from this? Are they seeing opportunities here?
There certainly is opportunities, and for this level of crime, certainly with some of the more sophisticated online frauds, that is organized. I know sometimes we think is it kind of that mafia idea that we have in our head. Some of it is, but a lot of it is organized groups that understand how to use this technology and how to exploit people when they use it. So we need to kind of get out of our minds the old concept of organized crime and understand that in a lot of ways they set themselves up as businesses.
And by the way, you mentioned the fact that people aren't reporting this. I mean, we see this apparently across the board. I think the AAC's mentioned this. I think we've seen this with anti-fraud. We've seen this with the BBB as well. Just how big a challenge does that pose for you folks? Why do you think people are not necessarily reporting these things? And then kind of what's the message? I'm sorry, it's a three-parter, but it ties in.
A lot of the things that we see is the big one is they feel embarrassed. A lot of the times, and certainly with some of the groups we've spoken to, they haven't even told any of their family that this has happened. It's just literally been that we've had officers there doing a presentation, talking about it, and then they've come up to the officers afterwards and went, yeah, I fell for that scam. And they explain what happened and how embarrassed they feel. And it is because we like to think that we would recognize these things. What we need to understand is that these people are very sophisticated and they will try and convince you that this is something that you've got to act upon. And that's what we see with a lot of these scams. It's all urgency. You must act really quickly. Otherwise, X, Y, or Z is going to happen. And what we want people to understand is that there is no real urgency. If we take what's going to be coming up, certainly in March and I would see into April, is the CRA scams. And one of the things we try and say to people, and I know it's a bit funny, but when was the last time the tax office ever tried to contact you? And when was the last time you actually tried to contact the tax office and got such a speedy response? So it brings a little bit of humor into it, but it helps people to understand that, well, yeah, actually, if I stop and think, with a lot of these things, it does take time. Even when you go into the bank and you want to process some stuff that, oh, well, this is going to take so many days to process. I think we think because technology is so quick that everything works that quickly. And so in a lot of these things, it's trying to explain to people that, no, the CRA do not contact you randomly on the phone. They'll contact you by email or by letter. They'll contact you how you've set up with the CRA how to contact you. The police, the courts will not call you and ask you for money. And it's that education part that we try and get out to people so they understand, oh, hang on a minute, there is no urgency in this. And that's the biggest thing. And one of the oldest tricks in the book, if you get a call and you don't recognize the number, pass it on to your answer machine. Because if it's really that important, they'll leave a message. And generally they don't.
Is there a worry, or have you seen an uptick when it comes to artificial intelligence? I mean, artificial intelligence starting to become a more part of life here, to the point where, you can mimic somebody's voice. Or have you seen an uptick in AI-related scams or anything that involves artificial
We've
intelligence?
certainly seen some. I wouldn't say it's suddenly been an avalanche. As we've looked into the abilities of AI, it's not quite there yet in some things, but it's just a matter of time. But you know what? Even with AI, even if they could mimic the voice of somebody that you know and put out an image, they again rely on that urgency. They're trying to push you to act immediately. We see it probably being most used in where they're trying to say that a loved one is in some form of trouble and they need help immediately. Again, what we would say is hang up and then call that person. Call your relative and say, hey, where are you right now? And they probably go, I'm asleep in bed. Why are you calling me? So it's a lot of the old ways of how to stop scams still work, even with the latest technology. So we see that I think eventually AI will play a part in this because they'll be able to mimic those things, but it's not something that we can't combat. It's not like we're like, oh no, AI is going to be the way that fraudsters will be able to make money without any intervention.
I'd say about 5 times a week I get a text or a call. It's Netflix subscription. It's something that's telling me I got to pay something. And you touched on it, but you mentioned briefly off the top that there's a lot more that the police can do that the public are even aware of when it comes to these things. Can you elaborate just a little bit on that?
Yeah, a lot of the information, as we investigate and as we gather information, we actually, because a lot of it will be international, there is, as we spread that out, and certainly working with the RCMP and the fraud groups, we're able to pass on that information and gather that, and then we're able to do share with our partners throughout the rest of the world, really, the other police agencies, and identify these different locations, shut them down, and we even work with, you've probably seen them on YouTube, these people who hack into the fraudsters and things like that. They also do provide some information that enables us to work on it. So we gather as much information as we can. Now, for the individual that's lost that money, we're not going to be able to return that in many of the cases. But their information that we share with us will ensure that it's not going to happen to anybody else. And we might be able to even shut down some of those locations, because we have to work. We can't just think of this as fraud as just, oh, it's just a problem here in Alberta or here in Canada. It is worldwide, and we do work with all our police agencies worldwide. And a lot of that work is through the RCMP.
Just to be more, can you boil down, you or whoever wants to, but just to boil down just the main vectors that this stuff is hitting people with? Is it phone, text, is it email? Just kind of what are kind of the main the fronts of attack, I guess, in terms of fraud?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, do you want to speak? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I will, only because I know we have specific data in our risk index report that does break that down. So we do know that youth are more likely, so youth being categorized as 18 to 24, being more likely to fall victim to scam online, whereas over 5 or over 45 more likely to fall victim to scam, email, phone call, that sort of thing. So we do look, as part of our report, we look at the different data, the susceptibility, and where those losses are occurring. We also know from our data that men are more susceptible to losing money on those scams. So while we see an increase in complaints and scams being reported by women, we see that men are more likely to lose a higher dollar amount on numerous scams across the platform. And both of those are really quite significant.
Some top examples of, this is obviously one of the leading ones. So if you can give us just even a few quick examples in terms of the kinds of investment frauds that are out there that seem to be quite successful in gaining traction.
Yeah. Do you want me to do that? You were signaling? Yeah, might be good for Alberta Securities. Yeah, good. Thank you.
Good morning. Yes, investment. Absolutely. Sure. Hillary McMeekin, Director of Communications and Investor Education with the Alberta Securities Commission. Investment frauds. Certainly, romance scams connected to crypto is significant by far and away. We have a great deal of legitimate crypto enterprises trying to do business, but unfortunately, fraudsters are using it because, as Sargent mentioned, it's a hot topic right now. People fall prey to it because they're interested in it. So we're seeing that more than most other things, but we continue to see online scams of any kind, just like the Sargent mentioned. Online is heavily where we see people getting victimized, and it is that urgency, like get in now. This investment, you can only get it now. You're only getting information that the top executives get information about. None of it is true. All of it is a pressure to get you in. You can pause. In any investment opportunity, there is time to pause. Every legitimate investment opportunity, there is time to just step back and think about whether this fits into your financial plan or whether it doesn't. But unfortunately, scam artists are really good at playing on your emotions, your desire to earn money, your desire to find money somewhere, and they grab it. They grab any possible opportunity. But I would say crypto is by far and away the biggest right now from an investment scam environment, and it's all online.
By the way, just for those that don't understand, because it sounds like it's emerging, so this is somewhat nascent, but I just, can you define for people, just kind of very briefly, just what are we talking, what is a crypto fraud?
Sure. So someone reaches out to you and says, there's this cool investment opportunity. They'll use a legitimate crypto trading platform name. They'll tell you that there's an opportunity on that. They'll get you into that platform. Oftentimes they try to help you get online. We can coach you. They'll help you. And you give a lot of people, unfortunately, are giving remote access to their computers, which is really dangerous because now they have access to all of your information. But once they're in there, then they convince you to get onto the platform, and then they tell you where to transfer the funds. And it's usually an illegitimate opportunity that is existing. They've made it look like it's existing on a legitimate crypto trading platform. So once you've let your money go to this place that you've not done any research about, it's gone, unfortunately. And as the Sergeant mentioned, quite often overseas. These are not based here. So if you think about any crypto trading platform that you've heard about that's legitimate, we encourage people to first do research to make sure it's a registered crypto trading platform. And you can do that through checkfirst.ca, which is our website. But then there's beyond that, you want to do your research into what the opportunity is that they're telling you about. Because more often than not, it's fraudulent. There isn't that real enterprise there that they're talking about.
I don't know if you can address this or not, but just when we see a market like, for example, a housing market, where we see it's a seller's market, it's a hot market, prices going up and stuff like that. I think, if I'm correct, if memory serves, we saw this in the late 2000s. I think we saw the straw man scam, we saw these mortgage frauds that were just proliferating. I know they were tied in some cases to other forms of crime and all that kind of stuff. Do you see in a market like this, like even in the real estate market, that tends to spur some kind of form of fraud that we're seeing growing? And I don't want to put you on the spot if you don't have that information on that, fair enough.
Do you have the person from retail?
Absolutely. Come on up. Yes.
And so can I get you
Sure. I am Russ Morrow. I'm with the Real Estate Council of Alberta, also known as RECA, and I'm the CEO. I think really what we're seeing more of is kind of the smaller frauds, but still significant. We'll see people that will falsify a number of offers they have in place, which causes others to escalate their offers, and they could be a $5 or $10, maybe more $1,000, and that's a key issue. On the mortgage side, really what we're seeing more there is around title fraud issues, and mainly in other provinces where people are falsifying that they have title on a property and selling out from underneath the legitimate owner. And that's a significant risk that we're watching quite carefully.
In Alberta as well?
We haven't seen a case yet in Alberta. We've watched that in Ontario specifically. But there's only a matter of time before you start seeing it here as well.
Okay, gotcha. And you see where I'm leaving this. I'm just, in a market like this, where we're just seeing, like, and we're gonna see more activity heading into this year as the market really starts to heat up, just what people need to be watching out for when it comes to real estate and real estate related fraud.
Yeah, so what you really want to be careful of, like I said, is going to be those multiple offer situations to make sure they're legitimate. They'll also want to take care to make sure that sometimes people will put postings up, they'll take them off and put them out at a higher value above market, which then can lead to fraud on the banks, meaning that they might have a higher exposure when they put lending out on that. Those kind of areas would be concerns. And you want to watch for, if you're purchasing property, make sure you go through and get a proper inspection to make sure that something hasn't been misrepresented in the house. And that can be rather significant as well. If you take over a property that has foundation issues, it could be a huge bill for you.
Okay, appreciate it. Listen, I don't mean to hog things here, but just one final question for the BBB, if that's possible.
Yeah, for sure.
And thank you for that.
Yeah.
Much obliged. Just one thing, because I just wanted to, me and Menelo to go back to it. Just well, first of all, just for clarification, and so in your jurisdiction, at least here for Alberta, the Kootenays and so on, we're seeing investment fraud and crypto frauds tend to be some of the more common ones that we're seeing in this area, according to you folks.
Correct. Through our risk index report, which looks at the data nationally. So we look at across US and Canada, but specifically the risk index report, which shows cryptocurrency and investment at number 1, is Canadian data.
Okay, got it. So what I just want to circle back to was, and I apologize, it's a Monday, so just indulge me, but just you had mentioned, as you were giving kind of a synopsis of the report, you mentioned that one of the points on that was somewhat notable for you. What was that again, do you recall?
Yeah, on the investment side and specifically the investment in cryptocurrency, what we are seeing is the susceptibility of losing money on those. So while we are seeing a smaller number of claims, what we're seeing is the dollar losses to be quite a bit more, which you would expect in terms of investments. But I think the median average losses, or the median losses, I should say, are close to $10,000. So when we look at the number of claims and look at the susceptibility and who it's impacting, it's significant for sure.
And that was, you're saying that was investment crypto related, correct?
Correct.
And just give us a quick model of that, just well, as you mentioned, I guess, just if you want to invest in an opportunity here, but you're using a crypto site in which to be able to do it.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. So if specifically when we look at investments and cryptocurrency, we look at all the data that's coming on. We are seeing themes around cryptocurrency as it relates to some of those investment scams. But we look at the data together and see that that's where we're seeing the highest losses.
As you look at this, oh, by the way, and does that includes Alberta as well? Because I know you're speaking with national numbers with
It
the
does.
scam tracker data, right?
It does. We look at the scam tracker data, but then we also narrow it down regionally and locally as well, so that we can be making sure that when we're looking at our education on how we can inform the public, that we're making it based on the data that's available to us today.
Okay, and final question for me, I'm sure you guys are getting sick of me, but just finally then, just as you look at this, the report that you guys are releasing today, maybe with some Alberta context in it, but just distill it down for us, just in terms of overall, in terms of what you're seeing with the kinds of frauds and what's going on here, just your overall take on what we're seeing emerging.
I think the number one theme that we're seeing in our risk index report, especially for me, having looked at it for the last several years, the thing that is most staggering to me is the susceptibility increasing. Across all of the top 10, we're seeing more susceptibility, so more people falling victim to it. So we do know we referenced the over $500 million in losses reported through Canadian Anti-Fraud. We know that less than 10% of scams actually get reported. We've talked about that. We've talked about the reasons why and the fact that people feel like they've been victimized and they don't recognize that these are sophisticated criminal rings that you're dealing with. And so, the more that we can educate and inform and share this information, have those very difficult conversations with our loved ones, with our neighbors, with our community, the more that we're going to be able to achieve that. But for sure, I think the most concerning is just the overall, the susceptibility, the chance that you will find or fall victim to a scam, or that somebody will fall victim to a scam. That's really the overall theme. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming, and we'll just wrap it up there. Unless anyone else has anything you want to add on please or anything like that. All good?
Do you have something to add to this? You have something great? I just didn't know. Once again, can we just get you to tell us your name, your position title, and who you're with?
Yep, my name is David Nunes, Nunes, and I'm a spokesperson with the CRA.
Okay, If you can just give us just a summary here, just from your perspective here, just what are you seeing and what are the concerns?
Well, lately what we've been seeing is that the scammers or the fraudsters actually target people that they believe might be a little bit more susceptible to getting to following and into some of these scams. So what we find actually is that newcomers to Canada might have problems with these situations because they might not be aware of how taxes work in Canada. They might not be fully invested into how it works. And so they sometimes try to target those individuals as well. And so if what we've seen lately coming out is these new scams targeting newcomers. So we recommend that once you are a newcomer to Canada to educate yourself. The name of the game is prevention, but also education. So knowing better and making sure that you're aware of your own tax situation is something that will prevent you from falling into these situations.